Hello and welcome to Dressmaking Amore. Today I want to share with you how to sew the classiest miniskirt. Simple yet beautifully constructed, the Jennie skirt is the perfect little miniskirt that hugs your waist comfortably while flaring out delicately at the hips. Inspired by the classic simplicity of Chanel, the Jennie skirt is such a pretty little staple piece that you can wear with pretty much anything. Of course, we'll be using my Jennie skirt PDF sewing pattern, so to follow along, get yours at the link below in the description and use this code on the screen for 50% off the pattern for the first 24 hours. Here are the materials you'll need. And please refer to your instructional booklet that comes with your pattern to choose your right size and print and assemble the pattern perfectly, as well as follow the cutting instructions. All the steps for the whole sewing process are in there, and here's a quick visual guide on how to put together your printed pattern. The letters in the top left corners indicate the rows and the numbers indicate the columns. The circles in the corners will help you match up the pages. Cut the pages according to the frame to assemble the pattern, and only then cut the pieces out. For this piece, use a medium weight, soft, non-stretchy woven fabric that will want to hold its shape, and here I'm using a chenille tweed fabric with a lightweight cotton for the lining. Now our pattern pieces are the front facing, back facing, front lining, and the back lining. Okay, let's get to sewing. First, we're going to stabilize our pattern pieces using fusible interfacing. Interface the facings, pieces 3 and 4, fully, and if you're working with a flimsy tweed, you'll want to interface all of the pieces fully. But if your fabric already has some stability, you can use a 1 to 1.5 centimeter wide fusible stay tape to stabilize the seam allowances of the waistlines and the side seams of pieces 1 through 4. Note that if your stay tape is thinner than your seam allowances, you'll want to fuse it about 5 millimeters from the edge of the fabric. Also take a 3 centimeter wide strip and interface the center back on piece number 2 to stabilize the edge for the closure. And finally, take a 5 centimeter wide strip to interface the hemline of the skirt, front and back. Now serge or overlock pieces 1 through 4 all around, and then press the serged edges to almost melt the thread into the fabric. Place the back pieces right sides together and mark the length of the zipper. It should be 18 to 20 centimeters. Make a mark for yourself, and now pin the center back seam from that mark down to the hem. If your fabric has a visible pattern like mine here, make sure that you match it up. Now, from that mark up, hand baste up to the waistline with seam allowances of 2 centimeters. We need to sew down from the mark to the hem, making sure to backstitch as we sew the center back seam with the same 2 centimeter seam allowances. Make sure everything looks good. And now press the center back seam open. Transfer the mark for the closure end to both sides of the seam allowances. None of my pen's right on this fabric, so I know it's a little hard to see, but with your zipper face down, mark the end of the closure on the zipper tape as well. My zipper was longer than needed, but I'll cut that later. See that everything is looking good, and then place the zipper over the center back seam, matching the markings on the zipper tape and the skirt seam allowances, and pin the zipper to the seam allowances along the tape edges just like this. Now you can either sew it by hand or by sewing machine, and stitch the zipper starting from the top edge down to the mark on both sides. Using a seam ripper, take away the basting seam, making it nice and clean. Then open up the zipper so that you can place the zipper pull inside like this, and change to an invisible zipper machine foot so that we can sew one side of the zipper tape, and then the other. Flip up the zipper pull so we can pull it through the hole at the closure end, and zip up the zipper and check that it's laying smoothly and nicely on your fabric without puckering. Since my zipper is longer than needed, I'll cut it about 2 inches below the closure mark like this and finish the end with a piece of fabric. Pin and sew the side seams with 1.2 centimeter seam allowances. Press the seams, and then press the seam open and cool down with the tailor's clapper. Here's what our skirt is looking like so far. Now pin and sew the side seams of the facing, and press the seams open. take your skirt and unzip it, and pin the facing to the skirt right sides together at the waistline, matching the side seams. We want to clip away the seam allowance corners to avoid bulk at the corners. And as you see at the center back, the facing should be shorter by about 1.2 centimeters. If yours is longer, trim it. And then we'll pull the facing a bit to match it up with the center back edge and pin. At the bottom, mark the seam allowances, and we're going to sew from the top edge down to that mark, catching the zipper tape. Like so. Here it's left free. At the zipper teeth, turn the edges towards the facing and pin so that the edges of the waistline lay even, and then sew the waistline. Check the corners to make sure everything is even. Clip the seam allowances, trimming the corners at an angle again, and flip it out to the right side to reveal our nice corner. This fabric is quite thick, so if you're using a regular home sewing machine, I recommend making the facing from a different fabric than your main, as it'll be thinner and easier to work with. Fold the seam allowances towards the facing, and then from the right side, understitch the seam allowances. You want to clip the corners here a little as well. Let's take a look at how beautiful our back is looking. And now we can trim and grade the seam allowances. Grading means trimming one side of the seam lower than the other. Here I trimmed the skirt seam allowances lower than the facing. Close the zipper and check that the facings are equal in length. And then press the waistline seam flat. With the facing and the skirt seam lines aligned at the side seams, pin the facing in place right there. From the right side, we're going to sew right into the ditch at the side seams to secure the facing in place. Sew from the top edge down by about 2.5 centimeters, and our seam allowances are left free so that we can sew the lining. And if you're not sewing the lining, finish the skirt with just the hem. Now pin and sew the side seams of the skirt lining. Serge or overlock the side seams, center back edges, and the bottom edge. Press all of the serged edges to meld the threads into the fabric. And with the skirt and the lining right sides together, pin the lining to the bottom edge of the facing, matching the side seams and the center marks like this. Sew with 1.2 centimeters seam allowances. And then serge that edge. Press, and then press the seam allowances flat towards the lining. Zip up the skirt and lay it out in front of you like this, and on the lining, mark the end of the zipper, you can mark a little bit above it, and then flip the lining to the wrong side, pin the center back seam of the lining right sides together. We're going to sew from that mark down, just like this. Now press the seam open. Then with your zipper open, turn out the facing at the end and take your lining and pin it to the zipper at the center back at both edges like this. There's about 2.5 centimeters of space right before the end of the zipper for our opening. Start at the point where we previously stopped sewing and sew with this side of the foot touching the zipper teeth. That's how I know I'm catching the zipper tape. Flip everything out to the wrong side so that we can see our pretty result. Now flip it out to the right side and press everything flat. Beautiful. To finish off with our hem, we're going to mark 8 centimeters or 3 inches up from the bottom edge on the inside of the skirt. Then fold the hem allowance up towards that marked line and pin and press. And top stitch 3 centimeters from the edge or hem loosely by hand. I'm using a helpful sewing machine magnet called a seam guide to get even stitching here. Now here's the finished hem of the main fabric and the lining, which I did in the same way but thinner. and press everything. And at the sides, I'm going to make a thread chain to connect the lining and the main fabric. This will keep the lining in place where we want it to be. Just like this. And of course, giving your entire garment a finishing press like always, we are done with our beautiful Jennie skirt. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new and this inspires you to sew this lovely piece yourself. I know you'll love it. You can get the PDF downloadable sewing pattern that I used below at the link in the description of this video, and happy sewing!